Welcome to this explainer. If you're gearing up to downsize your home, you already know exactly how overwhelming the whole thing can feel. I mean, you've got decades of memories to sort through, endless packing, and let's not even talk about all the paperwork. It's a massive lift transition. But today we're going to focus entirely on cutting through the real estate tax confusion. We want to get you completely clear on your next steps. So let's jump right in. So, will a 1031 exchange actually save you money on your home sale? Well, if you've been reading up on downsizing, especially around the Chicago area or the south suburbs, you've probably seen this specific term popping up everywhere. And it's confusing, right? Some articles make it sound like this magical wand to just wave away your taxes, while others barely even mention it. It's incredibly common for homeowners to ask this exact question after wading through all that conflicting advice. You're definitely not alone if you're sitting there wondering, wait, am I missing out on some massive tax loophole? Let's clear that up right now. Section 1, the 1031 exchange myth. Let's look at the truth versus fiction. The 1031 exchange is absolutely one of the biggest buzzwords in real estate right now. But honestly, it's completely misunderstood by people who are simply looking to downsize. The name comes directly from Section 1031 of the Federal Tax Code. Basically, it allows a real estate investor to sell a property and defer their capital gains tax by rolling those proceeds right into another similar or like-kind property. But here's the critical piece, and Fidelity Investments points this out in our source material. This is strictly an investor strategy. Say you sell a rental house. You can roll that money into a small apartment building, or you could swap some land for a commercial space. The golden rule here is the use of the property. It has to be for business or investment. And that brings us to the detail that trips up so many of us. A 1031 exchange does not apply to your primary residence. I know, that can be a bit of a letdown, especially if a friend was just casually bragging about how much money a 1031 saved them. But honestly, it doesn't matter if you've lived in your house for 40 years, personal homes simply do not qualify for this. Fidelity is super clear on this point. Properties used for personal reasons, meaning your main house or even a second vacation home, are a no-go. It's a really easy mistake to make, assuming it applies to any home sale, but acting on that assumption without checking, that can be a very expensive misstep. Moving on to Section 2, your real tax break, Section 121. Okay, let's leave that 1031 myth in the rearview mirror and talk about the real hero of the tax code for homeowners, Section 121. While the 1031 exchange gets all the flashy internet hype, this rule right here, which is just known in plain English as the home sale exclusion, is what actually helps the vast majority of people when they downsize. Basically, this tax rule lets homeowners exclude a really significant chunk of capital gains from the sale of their main residence. This is the rule built specifically for you and for the house you've actually been living in. And the IRS exclusion numbers are incredibly generous, which should instantly take a lot of that tax anxiety right off your plate. Get this, if you're a single filer, you can exclude up to $25,000 of capital gain from your income. Married and filing jointly? Boom, that number doubles right up to $500,000. For most folks downsizing after spending decades in one house, this exclusion usually covers most, if not literally all, of their taxable gain. It's just so much more relevant to your typical downsizing journey than a 1031 exchange could ever be. Now, to grab this massive exclusion, you generally just have to pass two really straightforward tests. It's actually a super flexible rule. First, you need to have owned the home for at least 2 of the 5 years right before the sale. And second, you must have used it as your main residence for at least 2 of those same 5 years. The really fantastic part? Those 2-year periods don't even have to happen at the exact same time within that 5-year window. That gives you a ton of breathing room and flexibility when you're figuring out exactly when to make your move. But, there's always a little fine print to keep in mind, right? Standard capital gains rates do kick in for any profit you make above that huge exclusion amount. For most sellers, that's going to sit right around a 15% tax rate. Also, just a quick heads up, a really massive home sale could temporarily bump up your income for that year. And why does that matter? Well, it could actually impact your Medicare premiums through something called IRMA. It's just a really important little nuance to keep on your radar as you're mapping out your finances. Section 3, when 1031 actually applies. Let's talk investment properties. Okay, so we've got a solid grip on the rule for your primary home. But what about the exception? Because some seniors, especially around the Chicago area or the south suburbs, might own more real estate than just the house they live in. It really helps to picture your properties in 2 totally separate buckets. On the left, in magenta, we've got your primary residence. That's for personal use, and it belongs exclusively to that Section 121 exclusion we just broke down. Then, on the right side, in the soft blue-green, we have the 1031 exchange. That bucket is strictly for investment or business properties, like a rental house, a duplex, or maybe a small commercial building you own. The biggest takeaway I want you to have from this whole explainer is that you can never, ever mix these two buckets together. Selling your home and selling an investment property are two completely different transactions with totally different tax rules. You just can't swap one for the other. Now, if you do have a property sitting in that investment bucket, you really need to wrap your head around the timeline for a 1031 exchange because it is insanely fast and incredibly strict. Take a look at these clocks. Day 1, your original property sale closes. Boom, clock starts. You then have exactly 45 days to formally identify a potential replacement property in writing. Then, you have a total of 180 days to actually close on that replacement. But here's the absolute kicker. That 180-day countdown runs at the exact same time as the 45-day window. Both clocks start ticking on the exact same day. You cannot just hang around until day 40 to start house hunting. If you miss either of these deadlines, the whole exchange completely fails. This right here is exactly why planning early is absolutely non-negotiable. Which brings us to Section 4, planning your next move. Let's cover your next steps. All right, so we've cut through the tax confusion. Before you even think about hammering a for sale sign into your front yard, you need to ask yourself 3 vital questions to figure out exactly which bucket your property falls into. Number 1, have you ever rented out this specific property, even just for a little while? Number 2, has it always been your primary residence, or did how you use it change over the years? And number 3, do you happen to own a totally separate investment property that might factor into your overall downsizing plan? How you answer these questions is going to dictate exactly which tax rule applies to you, and just how much lead time you're going to need to get all your ducks in a row. Because let's face it, these answers carry some very real financial consequences. You really cannot afford to just guess here. You need to assemble your professional team early. I'm talking about a CPA, a tax attorney, a qualified intermediary if you're actually doing a 1031, and of course your realtor. Keep in mind, a realtor is absolutely amazing at helping you navigate housing options and coordinating the timeline, but they aren't tax advisors. Only a qualified CPA or a tax attorney can dig into your specific ownership history and give you the legal advice your unique situation actually needs. Oh, and if you are going the exchange route, you have to get that qualified intermediary on board before the sale closes, definitely not after. I also want to pass along a really important word of caution, straight from the source. The IRS itself actually warns homeowners to be super careful about promoters out there who aggressively push these tax-free 1031 exchanges for things like vacation homes or second homes that frankly just don't qualify. First of all, a 1031 exchange defers your taxes. It doesn't make them vanish forever. Second, trying to jam a personal second home into an investment loophole, that is a massive recipe for severe tax trouble down the line. Please always rely on your own trusted professionals to guide you safely through this maze. Getting all these distinctions right from day 1 is going to save you from making some really costly assumptions. Plus, it lets you build a downsizing timeline that actually fits your real financial picture. I'd highly recommend tapping into the free Homeowners 50+ resource library we mentioned in today's sources. It's totally packed with practical guides covering pretty much every angle of later life housing, from downsizing tips to care alternatives, all meant to help you make these choices with total confidence. So, armed with the truth about your real tax advantages, what's your next move going to be? And are you ready to explore your options with absolute clarity?